I learned a lot of stuff in seminary, but two things still come to mind daily. The first is one professor said, "Gentlemen, remember the 11th commandment. Thou shalt have good PR." And I thought, oh, wow. I looked in Exodus, I'm like, there it is. Who knew? Who knew? It's right there. And the second one, the same professor said to us, "Gentlemen, when you go to wedding receptions, stand by the bar, have your drink in your left hand and shake with your right hand." And I thought, I'm 19. I don't know how to do. But then when I got ordained in kind of the first wedding I went to as a priest, I was like, what do I? And I thought, oh yeah, that's right. And I just went and I just stood there and I just talked with people and shook hands and then, got a lot of hors d'oeuvres too, kind of beforehand. And I thought, this is actually brilliant. And, I learned some other theology and stuff too. But really just to be able to stand by the bar, because most people are going to get a refreshment. It doesn't have to be an alcoholic one necessarily, but everyone is going to want to quench their thirst in some way or another, and they're going to come by the bar, and oh yeah, that was the priest from the wedding. And maybe some people want to say, "Good homily, Father." It happens every once in a while. But there are other times where people are like, "Hey, I got a question about your faith," or "Hey, I don't really understand what you meant by this," or "Hey, I'm going through a thing, can you pray for me?" And really just to have access to so many people before you go into the other room where there's the dancing and kind of the busyness of cutting the cake and the bride and groom and such, it's really a great place to stand. And I, most of the time, try to do that. So Anna and Dante, you'll see me over there, in June, right by the bar. I'll be like, "Hey, how you doing?" "Yes, good, great, grand, wonderful." And really, to think about Jesus, long ago at the wedding feast at Cana, he's probably positioning himself in a similar way. And not just because he was so excited to be there, and not because he was glad-handing or anything like that, or worried about PR, but because there'd be a lot of people that would be rejoicing in the bride and groom. What we know about weddings of that day is that it wasn't the affair that we have where there's the kind of happy hour beforehand, cocktail hour, and then the dinner, and then there's the dancing, and then you call it a day. It was a multiple-day affair. And to be able to welcome people to your wedding was also a sign of not just status, but of gratitude for the people that are a part of your lives. And to be able to have the food and the drink and the dancing and the singing and the celebration and the prayers that would happen throughout those days was a really important thing. Imagine, can I just show of hands, how many of you have thrown a wedding either for yourself or for your children? Can you imagine running out? Can you imagine running out of something important like wine? They'd be like, "This place stinks. Boo on this relationship. It's not going anywhere." Yeah. So to be able to see the urgency when Our Lady comes before her son and says, "They have no more wine." Jesus really hears the question, and he has this moment where, am I going to begin my public ministry or not? Am I going to begin it for this couple that I care for quite a bit? Am I going to out myself in a way as the Messiah? Is it time, Father, for the public ministry to begin? And he says with a lot of certitude in his heart, yes. Yes, and we don't hear that exchange in the transcript of the gospel. But then Our Lady immediately turns to the servers, and what does she say? She says, "Do whatever he tells you." I feel like if you or I had run out of wine at one of our family members' weddings or some other important element, we would do whatever we could to be able to very quickly make that work. We were on our mission trip last week in Mexico, and it was beautiful. The very first night in Francisco Amé, which is near Tulum. We were not on a resort. I told you that. I promised you that. But we're here in this wonderful Mayan town. And the very first day, as we're gathering and meeting people, we got invited to a big birthday party. And as we're there, there's a sound check going on. We showed up on time. It didn't really start for another hour and a half. But as they're doing the sound check and they're beginning the music, it was almost like it was a wedding because they were celebrating the patriarch of the family and his big birthday. But then the power blew. And you should have seen the people that went to scramble to make sure that everything could be fine for the party because they wanted to be able to celebrate this man well. The scrambling that happened. So those servers who might have been like, ceremonial jars? Why are we filling these up? This has nothing to do with the wine. You guys ran out of wine. How embarrassing. No, they hopped to because they wanted to make sure that the bride and the groom had what they needed. And I think for us, if Jesus is going to perform a miracle for this couple, if he's going to expend all of this effort, which really didn't cost him much at all, for one moment, for one weekend, then don't you think that our all-powerful, all-loving God wants to perform miracles for us in our lives? Can you see how, if he's willing to do that for little things, which was actually a really big deal, then why wouldn't he be willing to do so for you in your life? Why wouldn't we believe, as Catholics, most of us in the Catholic tradition, that what he does here at Mass, he doesn't give us wine. That's one of my pet peeves when people are like, oh, the wine at Mass. I'm like, oh. It's not wine. It's actually God's blood. We believe it's the precious blood of God. And I'd love to talk to you about that. If it's not the bread, right? It's Jesus' actual body. It's his sacramental presence. So I didn't give my life to have people call it wine. I'm just kind of drives me crazy. But in the moment of that Jesus loves you so much that he's willing to change ordinary things into an extraordinary gift for you. That he's willing to make his own body and blood so small that it's actually digestible. That you're going to be able to consume him and be consumed by his love. And that grace can renew your life. A beautiful gift that we have in the sacraments. And to be able to know, again, as our mission trip, one of the other moments that was so beautiful for me was as we're painting this village church, and we're just trying to give it a fresh coat of paint and a little, just a little facelift to make it look a little brighter for the people that were there. They don't have Mass as regularly as a lot of our communities do. And so the fact that we had Mass on a Monday or a Tuesday or a Wednesday, there were so many people that showed up and they brought their songs and they brought their prayers and they just brought their great pride in this place that they called their home. I feel that similarly here too, that this is a place of spiritual home for you. And that if the Lord is willing to do so on a wedding feast, and if he's willing to do so in giving us his body and his blood, then what might he be able to do with your spiritual home right here in your soul? That our spiritual worship, our CSC, isn't something that's just on Forsyth, but that it's actually something that we bring with us. Our house where God dwells is a place where we can access him all the time. He's not just waiting for us at the bar. He's waiting for us on the dance floor. He's waiting for us in all the great moments. He's waiting to be able to do those miracles in your life if you allow him to. And I think that's where a lot of us get hung up. I don't see how God is working in my life. Well, are we allowing him to work in our life? What if the head servers and all the different waiters said, no, we're not going to do those things? Well, then there wouldn't be the miracle of the wine. What if you and I didn't believe that God was present here on the altar in the Eucharist? Well, he'd still be present there, but we wouldn't see the effects of it in our life. And what are all these other things, all these other prayers and petitions that we have? Some really heavy things, some really confusing things, some really stressful things. Well, maybe those things don't change or we don't feel God accompanying us with them if we don't ask or if we don't do what it is that he tells us. I'd like to draw your attention to, once again, our holy door in the back of church here. There's holy doors all across the church in this year of hope that we're beginning. The main one is at the Vatican, and it's going to be one that is walked through by millions of pilgrims that are going to come through in the Vatican and be able to have a renewed sense of hope as they walk through the threshold into a new way of living. This is our symbolic door. As you might know, we've had in December the things that were bricked off, those things that maybe are resistant, that are struggling. There's one on the other side that says daylight savings time. I'm like, okay, if that's a resistance for you to have hope, that's fine, Maeve, write it down, that's fine. But then to be able to then see the ivy that's breaking up that mortar, and slowly, those things that bring us some hope, and maybe some lights that shine, or what the little lights that are dressed upon it, as Sister Catherine and Mary Kate decorated that for us. It's coming down today at the 4:30, and I feel like the whole symbol of the Holy Door is a nice art project, but if we just leave it at that level, then that's all it is. Nothing changes if nothing changes. But if we allow this to be a real year of hope, then we're not just walking through some symbolic door, but you and I are able to walk through and live Cana as a reality. We're able to start seeing the miracles and the providence that God is doing in our lives and to show gratitude for them. Who knows if the bride and groom ever figured out that it was really Jesus that made sure they had all that wine? But they sure as heck knew that they didn't have enough, and then they had more than enough. And something happened in between. And I would just say, as we begin this new semester and as we're living in this new year of hope, that if you allow the Lord to work miracles in your life, you'll see some beautiful things happen. And that can begin right here at Mass as He transforms ordinary things into Himself. As He wants to transform ordinary people like you and me, who just go in and out of these wedding receptions just celebrating good things, that He wants to transform us into a beautiful gift for the world. If we do what He tells us, if we listen in our hearts to how He's trying to love us.